Most traders don't lose because of the market. They lose because they need to be certain. And that, my friend, is an illusion. Here on StockCast, we are going over part 3 of our mini-series on the Disciplined Trader written by Mark Douglas. If you haven't already, check out part 1 and 2, which are up on our channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, let's get into it. Welcome back to StockCast, the market show for the average Joe, whether you're a diamond-handed degenerate looking for the next 500% play or a more conservative swing trader or investor. We've got you covered. We tackle the latest market news, give our 2 cents, and maybe, just maybe, help you make some money along the way. I'm your host as always, Brandon Sharp. Welcome back. We got part 3 of the mini-series, The Disciplined Trader, written by Mark Douglas today. If you haven't already, check out part 1 and 2. Part 1, why most traders self-sabotage, put out a couple weeks ago. Part 2, you don't control the market and that's okay. We put that out last week. And today, folks, we are going over part 3 of this 5-part mini-series, The Illusion of Certainty. So let's jump right into it. So we all know that the market can be chaotic, hard to predict, to say the least. And that is just the nature of the beast and something that really we all just need to accept. So again, the Disciplined Trader, if you haven't already, or if you haven't heard of it, definitely pick up a copy, whether it be an audiobook or a physical copy. I have both, as I've said before. This is an excellent book if you're interested in trading psychology, anything like that. Excellent author. He also put out another book called Trading in the Zone, a little bit more well-known than the Disciplined Trader, but this one really hits at the core of trading discipline. So let's hop right into it. The Disciplined Trader, part 3, Illusion of Certainty, why fear destroys your edge. So the core premise, the market is uncertain, but your fear isn't about the market. It's about what you think uncertainty means about you. So the market is uncertain. I think if you talk to anybody and you tell them, oh, I'm a trader, at first they think you're a gambler. They might think you're crazy, right? Because what is the general conception of the market? It's this chaotic environment. Things are going haywire, going crazy. But we have a tendency as traders, and I'll speak for myself here, to assume that we can master it, that we can be the ones to figure out something that is certain within the market, whether it be an edge or a trading plan. We can figure it out. And really, it's about what you think uncertainty means about you. This is an excellent quote from the book. The markets can be looked at as a never-ending event, always changing, virtually without structure, in perpetual motion, with an unlimited potential for profit as well as loss in every trade. The psychological impact on the individual interacting with such an environment is formidable, especially when you consider the many ways in which all of us typically go about structuring our lives with highly defined boundaries, limits, and rules, so things stay basically the same. For most people, a static environment is a fundamental component of their sense of security and well-being. This is written so well. As you can tell, I had to take a screenshot of it when I was reading this because there is so much truth packed into this that many of us as traders overlook. Think about your static environment. Think about the environment that you're in. Talked about this last week, right? The way you go to work, the road doesn't change every morning, right? It stays the same. We're in a static environment. It's all around us. And we do get a sense of security and well-being from it. Whereas in the market, things are constantly changing, as Mark Douglas said, virtually without structure, in perpetual motion, up and down, right? And so that's the environment that we are in. There is no certainty in the market. You can have an edge, you can have a trading plan, it doesn't mean it's going to work out. That's the hard thing. So what fear really is. So fear in trading isn't random. It's a learned response to protect your self-worth. None of us, myself included, none of us like to be wrong. We want to be right. When I put a trade on, I'm not thinking, oh great, this is going to be a loser. I can't wait to lose money. No, we put trades on because we believe they are going to be winners. And we have to accept that there is an uncertain outcome when we put that on. And that's hard. Again, going back to that static environment that we're in, it makes it hard. Fear in trading isn't random. It isn't random. It makes sense that we have fear because of the uncertainty that we're dealing with. It's not the kind of environment that we're used to. And we're essentially trying to protect our image, our identity, right? And losses definitely don't help that. So a loss equals I'm a failure, right? So you get a couple losses in a row, your brain automatically jumps to I'm a failure instead of, you know what? I followed my process. It didn't work out. I'll get the next one. You got to know that the edge is in your favor. If you have an edge, right? That's important. If you have a system that you backtest or whatever and historically performs well and you have a couple losers, the professional trader is not thinking I'm a failure in that situation. What they're thinking is this is just part of the game. It's not going to be a winner 100% of the time. This is part of the time when it's a loser. You rinse, repeat your system when you're confident in the data, when you're confident in your edge. Missed trade equals I'm too slow. So how many times have you seen something take off? You missed the entry. Maybe it wasn't on your watch list. And you think, I'm too slow. You start to beat yourself up, right? It's the mental warfare that traders deal with. Wrong trade equals I'm not cut out for this. Again, psychological warfare on yourself. Getting in the wrong thing, maybe entering too late and then kicking yourself afterwards, right? These are all situations that traders deal with. These are all situations that bring about fear. These are things that traders are trying to avoid. And here's a real world example for you. So GameStop this week reported earnings on Tuesday. And, I had calls on it. Obviously, in hindsight, that was a horrible idea. I assumed with, the Bitcoin situation, their investment there, we might get a little push in the morning on Wednesday. And then to add insult to injury, we ended up getting some updates from leadership that, they were going to be doing some bonds. And so on Wednesday, late in the day, we had this massive sell-off. So anyways, I cut my calls Wednesday morning, obviously red, didn't make any money on that. And then we had the steep drop-off heading into Thursday, right? And for me, this was definitely a FOMO situation. So Thursday, heading into Thursday, my system would have told me, look for some weakness, right, in the first 30 minutes off the open, and then look for continuation. Instead, because I was in a place of fear, I waited. And so I actually entered way later. I basically entered at the bottom of the day in some puts. And at that point, if you're looking at it objectively, which I wasn't in the moment, because again, I'm susceptible to all of these trading weaknesses, psychological weaknesses, just like anyone else. And here on Stockcast, I want to be transparent, want to be honest. I'm not going to feed you a bunch of BS. This was a scenario for me where I wasn't following my system. I was giving into FOMO. And, I entered at the wrong time. I entered too late. And so at that point, there's a part of me that's saying, oh, this is definitely going to work out. But at that point, it had sold off so much that, looking at it again, objectively, it was a poor entry. The entry was at the beginning of the day, not at the end of the day, especially after a sell-off from 29 down to 22, right? And the trade flopped. And I held on to it too long. I was hoping right? It had gone a bit past my stop loss, and then I ended up bleeding a bit more before I actually got out of it. That was a poor trade, and it happens to everyone, right? And there was a fear of being wrong that put me in a position where I ended up holding on to a loser longer than I should have. One of the things that we as traders tend to do is we hope when we should be cautious. What I mean by that is when you have a loser, most people are hoping it'll go in their favor eventually. Oh, eventually it'll bounce, it'll come back, it'll retrace, whatever. Really, in that situation, that's when you need to be cautious. And then when we have winners on, that's when we get nervous. We want to protect our gains and we end up getting out before we have a valid reason to get out. I had that exact situation today with VIX calls. The market was tanking, geopolitical tensions, and I was nowhere close to my stop loss. The VIX was running. I was in the green, and I took my profit early. And then at the end of the day, when I looked, it actually ran all the way up to my actual take profit. That's an example there of, really the polar opposite. When I'm in the green, that's when I should be hoping. When I'm losing, that's when I should be very, very cautious and cut my losers. So what we really need is a rewiring of the response. You don't eliminate fear. You learn to respond instead of react. That's what we need to do. We need to respond to the market. We need to respond to what the market is giving us instead of just reacting, right? We need to expect losses. They're going to happen. As I was saying earlier, you can have the best system in the world. You're still going to have losses. You need to accept unpredictability. This is so, so, so important. The sooner you can accept unpredictability, the more comfortable you will be as a trader versus being anxious and always on edge. And also, you need to trust the system, not your feelings. And the only time you don't trust your system is if you don't have one. That's a big one, right? If you don't truly have a system and you're just guessing where things are going to go and you're relying on your feelings, that's not a true edge. That's not, I'm sorry, but nobody has enough of an intuition, enough of a gut instinct, right, to consistently be profitable in the market. If you are, prove me wrong, but in my experience, it's just not how that works, right? So here's another great quote from The Disciplined Trader. Not only can the markets destroy a person's sense of security by forcing the trader to confront on a moment-to-moment basis his lack of acceptance of change, but they also produce an emotional environment of considerable competitiveness and stress. There's the compulsive need to win millions with the simultaneous fear of financial devastation. The market's tease a trader with the very real possibility of fulfilling his grandest dreams of financial independence and at the same time stand ready and willing to take away everything he owns and more. This, again, another powerful, powerful quote from the book, and really just highlights the fact that, our sense of security is constantly being thrown in our face in the market. We don't have the static stability that we have in our day-to-day lives in the market environment. So you're constantly being pressed with the nature of what the market is, which is a very fluid environment, constantly changing. Geopolitical tensions, for example, right? Markets flying high, and then last night, or the other night this week, I think it was Thursday night, the futures markets took a fat dump when Israel attacked Iran. That's the kind of thing nobody can predict, right? And it just goes to prove the point. The market is such a fluid environment. But at the same time, it is the kind of place where you could fulfill your wildest dreams of financial independence. But on the flip side of that coin, it can take away everything. It's such a unique environment. And honestly, that's why I love it. It's unlike anything else, right? So trust the system, not your feelings. This is why you really can't trust your feelings, because things are constantly changing, right? Including our feelings, including our emotions. You need a proven system, and you need to accept the unpredictability, the unpredictable nature of the market itself. So this one's pretty short. That's a wrap for part 3 here. Next week, right? We will do part 4, redefining risk and reward, right? So we're going to get into the core idea being real confidence comes from trust in process, not prediction. So we've already established we have this environment where things are just haywire and very fluid and constantly changing. So what do we do about that? We need a process. We need to establish a routine, something that we can have confidence in, because the only thing that's certain is uncertainty in the market. So I hope you enjoyed this. Drop a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. How do you deal with fear in the market? How do you deal with uncertainty? Is that a constant challenge for you? Is it something over time you've come to accept? And how does that impact your trading decisions? Would love to get your thoughts on that. Just as a reminder, we will be dropping our market prep video Sunday evening, so be on the lookout for that. If you haven't already, make sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment. Appreciate the support. Find us on iTunes, Spotify, share with a buddy. And thanks as always. And remember, folks, plan the trade and trade the plan. Have a good one.